everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing Zatanna, the Mistress of Magic. Take a look at this comic cover right here. Now, Zatanna, the Mistress of Magic is the start of the ongoing Zatanna series. And going into this series, there were two things that were looking really good for me. One is, well, it's Zatanna, and I love the character. It's a character that I feel as though is not really appreciated or used enough in the DC Universe. I mean, she's used in crossover events and some team-ups, and even with the Justice League, but really, on her own, she's not really used that much. The second thing that was a big draw for me was, well, Paul Dini writes it. And I love Paul Dini. He's a fantastic writer and probably my favorite. He does great work with Batman and anything in the DC Universe. And he has a particular love for Zatanna. Whether or not he loves the character, or is it the fact that his wife is an illusionist, and she looks eerily like Zatanna, he has a good voice for her. So, who better to write Zatanna than Paul Dini? The question is this, though. Can Paul Dini pull off writing a Zatanna comic? Does Zatanna have enough going for her that she can actually hold her own comic book series? Or is the character too small at this point to really be in her own comic series, but too big to be used in crossovers? Is she kind of stuck in this middle ground? Well, that's a question that I will answer at the end of this review. Let's start things off with stories. There's really two stories in this. The first story deals with this demon overlord, Brother Knight, who has control over San Francisco's evil magic user area. Another dimension that's all for demons and shit. But see, he's getting ambitious and he wants to come out and take control of the normal world, San Francisco. He wants to take control of the upper ground, the mortal realm. And of course, he has trouble. And that trouble is Zatanna. See, Zatanna is not just going to let anyone walk in and take over a city or a country or a world, especially if it's a magic-based villain. No, she's going to step in there and she's going to flex her muscles and show him who's boss. However, Brother Knight is not one of those small little demons that she can take lightly. This guy is a serious murderer, psychopathic person that has great powers in demonic arts. So can even one of the most powerful users in the DC Universe, second only to the likes of Dr. Fate or Jason Blood, can she take this guy on? You'll have to see. The second story deals with a demon overlord, an actual person from hell, an actual demon from hell, who wants to take Zatanna's soul. And he goes through all different angles to do so. That's basically the story. It's very basic, very straight to the point. Demon, Zatanna. Demon wants Zatanna's soul, does a lot of stuff to get it. Sends demons after her, fire demons, sends a psychopathic casino owner that's been around for years who sells souls to that demon devil, and even tries to get Zatanna to get married to this psychopathic casino person. So he goes through a lot to have Zatanna and take her soul. So let's get into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good. Well, the one thing you can expect from Paul Dini is whether or not the story is good or not, and that is no reflection of this, but whether or not the story is good or not, the dialogue and the characterizations are always spot on. Paul Dini could be part of a really crappy book. Okay, let's just say he's part of, like, Shitface, the Avenger of the Crap Pool. And it's just an absolutely horrible book. But he'll do a fantastic job at characterization, at dialogue, and understanding the character. Zatanna is beautifully understood here. She's a character that's fiercely independent, that has a very feminine side to her, while at the same time has a femme fatale side to her, and at the same time comes off as a little bit of a tomboy, but is also a very serious individual who can be sexy all at once. And it's really hard to balance a character that has all that stuff going for her. But Paul Dini pulls it off. Maybe it's because Paul Dini loves the character, or maybe it's because Paul Dini is that damn good of a writer. And he is. There's very few writers out there that I give so much praise to, and Paul Dini is one of them. Granted that writers can make mistakes, and Paul is very much like anyone else, can make mistakes. I mean, a lot of people get a harp on Jeff Loeb or Grant Morrison or Jeff Johns or anything for that matter, but people can make mistakes, but Paul Dini is one of the people that very rarely makes mistakes, and he does a very good job as Zatanna for a character. And he also does a good job at introducing unique enemies in here. Brother Knight seemed kind of cool. Very reminiscent of the Joker at some points, but he still seemed pretty cool. The demon from hell, whose name I really don't remember and I really don't care, was actually a cool bad guy who was actually kind of reminiscent of a little bit Darkseid. At least in the way he presents himself, as being kind of a confident, almost somewhat honorable evil. And he does a cool job with the story itself. The story is well paced, and Zatanna's always moving, never has time to stop, and it's fun in that sense. Bad part. Well, the first bad is that there is really no supporting character. You can say that she has a crew, but they really don't show up. Or her cousin, Zachary, who was part of the Teen Titans, and if you read the Teen Titans, you would know him, who is actually a cool character, but he's really even not used that much. So there's really no supporting characters. Zatanna's the star, but she's also the only star. She's the only one in there. Batman has Nightwing and Robin and Alfred and Batgirl. Superman has Lois, Supergirl, Jimmy Olsen. Wonder Woman even has Donna Troy, Wonder Girl, Hippolyta, Artemis. Aquaman even has Topo the Octopus, along with Aqualad and Mira. But Zatanna really didn't have anyone here, and it didn't give me any sense of the universe. It didn't give me any sense of her world. I mean, I got a sense of who she is in her world, but I didn't really get a sense of her world. The second bad is, well, there's no direction in this. This feels very similar to Paul Dini's work on Batman when he does individual one-shot stories that you can just pick up, read, and put down. And that's all well and good for someone like Batman, who's a very established character. And it's not to say Zatanna's not established in the comic universe, but for her own series that is just starting off, I think a strong story arc would have been a better choice than just doing two small stories. Not that the stories were bad, but it just feels as though the comic has no direction. I mean, if you look at any of the origin stories for any of the big-name superheroes, whether it be DC or Marvel, the origin story, the start of their series, always starts things off with a bang and gives you a sense of direction. Even for characters that have been well established in the DC universe that get their own series, for example, Nightwing, are established characters, but you get a sense of what their series is like when you start reading the first arc. I would have liked it better if Paul had done an overall story arc. Actually, I would have liked it better if he took the Brother Knight story and made it go all the way through, and actually made Brother Knight be one of the big villains that Zatanna has, like an actual rogue to a rogue gallery. So there's definitely lack direction, for lack of a better term. Whether or not you should get it. Well, as you guys know, and as I said, I love Paul Dini. He's fantastic at his craft. When I first started reading this, I was actually kind of worried because it really wasn't gripping me. It wasn't really capturing me. As much as I love Paul Dini and I love Zatanna, it really wasn't working for me at first. However, as I continued reading, it started to get better and better, and I started to enjoy it more. I mean, like I said, Paul Dini did a fantastic job with the characters. However, like I said, this lacks direction. It needs a supporting cast, and it needs an actual direction that it's going. Villains, what's the stories going to be like? Are they going to be detective-like stories? Are they going to just be full-blown magic stories? Are they going to be a drama stories? Are they going to be this or that? It doesn't matter. I need direction for this comic. So, whether or not you should get it, probably not. It's going to hurt me to say that. As much as this was good, and as much as I still recommend it for people that have money, not everyone out there has the money to spare. So if you are tight on your wallet, Zatanna, Mistress of Magic is probably not the first thing to get. Even if you had extra money, I would probably say wait and get it for cheap at a 50% off sale or something. I would like to see more from this series. I hope you guys don't misunderstand me. I enjoyed this. It's just not worth picking up right now. If the series gets better, and I hope it does, then you probably should get it. But until then, and until I tell you then, you should probably wait on this. Unfortunately, another big hit to this is that I don't even think Paul Dini's writing it anymore. And that's one of the few faults of Paul Dini, is he doesn't stay on a title for overly that long. like with Gotham City Sirens, it seems like a title that would fit just for him. And this seems like a title and a character fit just for him. And for him to leave is kind of questionable on who's going to write it afterwards, and if they're going to even do as good of a job as him. So, putting all this stuff aside, Zatanna and Mistress of Magic did not make the best first impression for me when it came down to comics. The characterization was good, the stories were fun, but the direction was lacking and the supporting cast was lacking. Hopefully they work this title a little bit more and add a little bit more to it. For now, avoid picking it up. If it gets better, and I continue reading it, and I personally will, I will tell you whether or not you should invest in the series. But for right now, just focus on your normal comic book reading. That said, this is Andy saying, peace out for now.